Welcome to Both Sides Now, featuring the unconventional duo, Dr. Shirley and medium Kelly White. Two perspectives, one world. This is Both Sides Now.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to Both Sides Now. I'm Dr. Shirley.
And I'm spiritual medium Kelly White. And we're with John Williams.
Hello, ladies. Happy
John,
Monday.
our wonderful producer.
How's it going?
Well,
what is it? Week number 2,500?
Well, no, wait. I have the greatest story of all. Guess what I did? I did my own hair the real way, not Miss Lady Clairol, folks.
Oh,
the real way,
and
whatever
it looks
that means.
Amazing.
It does. I just zoomed in.
Wow, yeah.
Thank you.
And Dawn didn't help at all. You did the whole thing?
Oh, no, sister. I did it all myself with these two hands. And I had, I just want to say the greatest colorist in the world is Justine from Umberto in Beverly Hills. And she had mailed me my kit and painstakingly stayed on the phone with me and said, no, you do this, and you use this, and you use that. And I thought, well, it's now or never. And I just did it because I'll tell you what, I don't think I personally am going to be going to a salon anytime soon. And I really had to figure out, I didn't know this was something that I would ever encounter in my life to do. It sounds like a silly thing to people that, have, for me, it was like conquering Mount Everest or something. I'm serious.
Love it.
Oh, thanks, Elizabeth. Thanks. I really appreciate it. It was really something. So for me, and the other thing I did is I made homemade sourdough pizzas. Sourdough dough. What's the sourdough craze that everybody's doing? Well, I jumped on it. So
I wish I was there because I would be eating it up. You said that you have a starter kit of the sourdough yeast.
I'm going to have Carissa put it on my Instagram or something.
Oh yeah, okay,
there's a recipe for it and everything. But I have to say, it was fantastic.
Well, the pictures you sent me looked delicious.
So it's been quite an interesting.
Well, Sid did this, so let me just make clear: this is not my doing. I went to the supermarket trying to get my hair to dry. I came in, I looked crazy. I looked like a crazy woman. And Sid goes, oh, and straightener. 35 minutes later, bam, 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 bam. Here I am. And a shadow thing happened while we were doing that. So I'm going to share that when we get into talking about the shadow. It's almost as if I had staged it where I said something, and I'll share that in a moment, but it was amazing. Well, how the shadow side just shows up.
Yeah, it does just show up. It's funny. Yeah. I heard about a story today and it just showed up, and I thought, oh, I'm going to talk about this one today.
Yeah, there's a lot of examples.
Oh, Mama, there's so many. So let's talk about.
Let's do a shout out to everybody. There's a sweet Robert that listens to our show, and Sandy in Chicago, and
Lee in Chicago.
Yes, Lee.
And our dear Prajna, we love her so much. Prajna
warms my heart.
Me too. Yeah. Me too. Yeah. She's just terrific. The greatest healer. She's going to be on next week. Yeah. So that's look who's calling me. I'm not kidding you. This is James Van Prague is calling me. Wait, hold on a second. Honey, I can't talk. I'm actually in the middle of a show. Can I call you back?
Yeah, bye.
Love you.
That's so funny.
Watch my show.
That's so celeb of you. Oh my God.
Oh my God. Well, he had a session with Prajna too, and it was just,
we've all had sessions.
Incredible.
Yeah. I mean, and John's going to have one. Yeah, I don't want to overwhelm Prajna with so many people, but it's amazing. Mm-hmm. And me, the left brain, the moment we got on the phone, I felt my body vibrating. And you know me. It takes a lot. You were
feeling that when we had her on. Like you said you were suffering from stomach pain or stomach issues, and then it cleared up while we were on the.
And it cleared up. Yeah. And I remember that show, Kelly. You were kind of, and it was just words were questions, and it was just spewing out. It felt like I knew her. It felt like it was.
Oh, I felt the same way. Yeah. Well, I'm so blessed to just sit and listen because she's so wise. I love wisdom. Yeah. So let's get into the shadow.
What I love, one last thing is that she's also done her work. And we always talk about, spiritual bypassing, which is a shadow component. We'll get into that. But people who just do that and don't do the work, we're humans on Earth right now, and we have to do the trauma work that we experienced here on Earth, in addition to spiritual work.
Well,
They both go hand in hand.
it's really interesting, Shirley, because psychological growth and spiritual awakening are not the same thing.
No, not at
And you
all.
cannot miss a step.
No.
You can't miss a step in that because, it's funny with me. I had a spiritual awakening first, and then I did my psychological work.
Yeah.
It
doesn't matter the order.
It doesn't matter the order.
Yeah.
But they're both separate issues.
They're both separate, but just as important.
Equally as important.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Important. Yeah. So tell us about the clusterfuck of planets
of
and
what's going
energy.
on.
Please do.
I'll tell you, we're going to really concentrate right now on Pluto retrograde. There are 4 planets in retrograde. There's Saturn is in retrograde, which is karma and working with male energy and learning your lessons and looking back at our lives and dealing with responsibility. So that's and that lasts until the end of September. I think it's the 29th. Venus is in retrograde, and that's the duality of feelings. Nothing is black and white, although I love the screen here, John. You've got black and white for the shadow.
Yes, I love it.
It's really, shadow is even really parts of gray, and that's dealing with old relationships, old wounds, old feelings, things that may be unfinished business. And let's see, what else is and Pluto is retrograde, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. Oh, and Jupiter is retrograde, which makes everything expansive. So anything we're talking about, you're going to feel it more. But the reason I want to really specifically talk about Pluto today is because in 2006, I think it was, funniest thing, it was awful actually for us for astrologers, because in August of 2006, the Astronomy Council, or the Union, Astronomical Union, I think it was called Pluto that it wasn't a planet, that it was
I remember that.
a dwarf planet. They had to come up with something. It was not really a planet. And the funny thing about that, it hit on so many levels, because Pluto is the hidden. Pluto is death and transformation. It packs a punch. So to say that it doesn't exist, or if it's really not really this, that's just didn't work well for me. It didn't work well for a lot of people. Any astrologer would have told you that. It was really brought up a lot of stuff. And right now we're in Pluto retrograde, and Pluto retrograde, and this one is in Capricorn. It will bring up everything that has been in your past, your shadow. It means to work on your shadow. It means that anything that you did 30 years ago, guess what? It's going to pop out.
Uh-oh.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I got some fabulous stories about that just popping out. It's pretty funny, actually. But things that have been shoved down, so emotions that have been shoved down, no, not so anymore. It's funny. I live on a farm, which is a funny statement in and of itself.
In and of itself, yeah.
And today the cows, Dawn said, "Look at the cows. They're following the bull." And I'm like, I wanted to run out there and go, "Look, you guys, you don't have to follow him. Go this way." It was pretty funny. I really
live of you, Kel.
Oh my God, it was so funny. But anyway, so it's with this Pluto retrograde, is going to bring up issues that you haven't looked at, and that is going to be your shadow side. And so, having said that, Cheryl, let's talk about the shadow side, and we've got some stories to illustrate the shadow.
Yeah. Well, so let me start with while I was trying to dry my hair naturally, I went out in my car, and I have a convertible, so I was trying to just get the air to blow dry my hair, because I'm trying to heal the dryness while COVID is happening. And so I went to the supermarket. When I got back, I had bought some things, and I'm on a special kind of diet to deal with some stomach issues, and I'm not supposed to drink, right? So we had run out of beer, and every so often, in the summer and stuff, I like a beer. So I had bought a 6-pack, and so I'm in the room, and Sid's doing my hair, and she had put the groceries away. And so she goes, "Hey, on this thing," because I'm taking a whole bunch of supplements and stuff. She goes, "Can you drink beer?" And she just asked. It was very, the tone, everything was just curious. Hey, can you drink beer? And I said, well, I can have one once in a while. Maybe I'll sneak one on the weekend. And I was joking back. And she goes, I was just asking. And I said, no, I was joking. But then I thought about it. If it had been real and she had asked an innocent question, which her tone and nothing was judgmental about how she asked it, and I responded that way, that would have been because I was judging myself for doing something that I considered wrong, whether it was drinking in general or breaking, this regimen I'm supposed to be on. And so the way that I said it was accusatory, so it would have shifted and projected onto her, like accusing her of judging me when she really wasn't. So the judgment piece is the shadow piece. And so after I ran it through in my mind, and I go, Sid, I know you didn't ask that way. And I was joking back with you as if you were asking that way. That was
right.
I said, but if it was real, that's a beautiful example of the shadow. And that's exactly what Kelly and I are going to talk about on the show. And that's exactly it. It's the stuff that we don't know, that isn't conscious in us.
Right. And so let's talk about the psychological, and then I'll go into the spiritual shadow, which is really interesting too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the shadow side from a psychological standpoint is really exactly what that is. It's behavior that many times we don't know is living in the unconscious, and we don't know about it. So it's either judgment, or it's aggressive impulses, or it's immoral urges, fear. Society, we have to learn how to live in groups of people because it's survival. Otherwise, if we're alone, and this used to happen when we were living more in the jungle as nomads, not so much now, but it's still like that. And so society poses some behaviors, and people abide by them. And sometimes those behaviors, because you have thoughts, otherwise become the shadow, like unacceptable sexual desires. That can become a shadow, side of you. And what Carl Jung said, which I thought was just so brilliant, is until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you'll call it fate. Because what we don't know is actually running the show, not what lives in our unconscious. So it's really important.
True.
And to start to figure it out is to take a moment and step back. And when you have a reaction that's, more like, I have to say, my shadow side is when I work with people like when I have to call AT&T. And I just feel, and because my shadow side comes from not feeling heard. And so when I don't feel heard, I feel, in my somatic work, I feel like it's a volcano exploding.
Shirley, that's so funny you said that. So the other day I had to get a prescription refilled, and I don't have a doctor where I live. So I called the doctor that I originally had a session, was supposed to see here in Wisconsin. And they said, oh, you have to come in. And I said, come in? Why? I'm not going in. I'll just do a Zoom session like I do every day with people. And they said, oh no, we don't do that. You have to come in. And my shadow, I actually said this. I'm almost embarrassed. I said, I'll fly to LA first. Fucker. I was so pissed. And that was as my mother would say, my Scottish shadow. Oh, it came out. And then I was like, whoa, I wonder if I thought, I wonder if I'll have another doctor out here, because it's hard to find a doctor out here.
Yeah.
And did I just, bite off my nose to spite my face, But
right.
But I really mean that. I don't want to go in, but I really need this medication. So it was a real interesting. And my shadow, I was ready to kill. And then you know what I did? I calmed myself down. I went online. I found a doctor. There was only one in 150 miles, but I took him.
Wow.
And I had a fabulous Zoom session with him today. I love this man.
Nice.
He looks like Alan Alda. He was such a good guy. Really liked him, So anyway, but I took action on it. I calmed down, but I did recognize that was my shadow. I could have just said, "Oh, I don't know. I couldn't have calmed down at that moment." I was too pissed off.
Because it touches something. The shadow comes from somewhere, and I've apologized to AT&T. I know I sound really angry right now, and I apologize. I know it's not you, and I can't control the anger. because of the triggering of the feeling not heard. And so it's real, you know,
Oh, it's
and
real.
the way to work through it is to take moments. I mean, I've gotten much better to take moments and go, why did I respond that way? Or if I would have really responded that way to Sydney, not joking, pretending she was judging me, and then, you know, why did I do that? You know, and then you can start to uncover what
Well,
the shadow side is and bring
right.
it into consciousness, which is how you have more control over it.
Well, and what's so truly important about that is this is, if you don't work on your shadow side, you may pick a spouse, a friend, whomever
Mhm.
from your shadow. You may pick them and you may pick their shadow. And then you're going to have some major explosiveness going on here. And what
Oh yeah,
happens is,
yeah.
you know, the term imago, Imago,
Mhm.
imago.
Mhm.
I mean, it's an unconscious, idealized mental image of someone, especially a parent, which influences a person's behavior. You could project that imago on what you think this person's going to be
Oh, that happens all the time in
all the
couples therapy.
time.
In fact, there's an
Right.
Imago couples therapy
That's
um,
right.
created by
Hendrix.
Harville Hendricks,
Yeah.
and I'm trained in that.
Yeah.
And it is about what we project onto, I mean, everything that's unhealed from our family of origin, from our environment, which most likely is always parents, but there could be other influences there, other people. We'll bring in, if it's unhealed, we will bring into that relationship.
Right.
Susie is saying my shadow originated with my father when I was a child. Yeah. I mean,
Oh,
it usually does
I'd like
happen
to
that
hear
way. There
about
were
that.
other
Yeah.
comments. Yeah. There were other comments that you put, John, that were kind of funny. Yes, Rebecca, I had a shadow moment with the State Farm insurance today. Had to apologize for my anger. I have had to do that so many times. And what I love about that is progress, because before
Yeah.
I felt so justified by being so angry that I wouldn't apologize. And so now when it happens, because I'm not going to say it doesn't ever happen, it happens a lot less, but when it happens, I do apologize. So that is progress. It's important to always look at the progress, not that we're still doing it, but how often it happens, how we repair it, and all that is progress.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
very true. Well, you know,
Yeah.
interesting. I had a interesting couple of interesting shadow stories about the past that came up for people that I know. You know, I'm not going to
Mhm.
obviously mention names or any of that, but for some reason, this just cracked me up. And it's not funny. It's a real, see, that's my shadow. This is my shadow side coming out. It's so, my mom would be dying laughing right now, but it's so not funny what I'm about to say.
Yeah.
So I had, oh, God, two stories. The one I heard about, well, I'll just say today, from somebody I know who, uh, how do I say this? We'll just say somebody out there. Um, you know, I'll tell you that 23 and Me. Anybody know about that
Mhm.
23 and Me, or that,
Oh
what are they
yeah.
called? The other one?
Yeah. Ancestry.com.
Yeah. Well, that's brought up a lot of things from the
Oh.
past.
Oh yes, it
You
has.
know, that,
I
and
have a
children that all of a sudden appear, you know, because
mhm,
find out that they're related to this one or this one,
mhm.
you know. So I have actually two situations going on with that, where, and what's important about that is that the soul of the child that was conceived and didn't know who the father was, but now it's coming to light who the
Mhm.
father is because
Mhm.
of, well, number one, we have a lot of time to look at things, right? So people are doing their ancestry. So
That's
this
oh
shadow,
my God. I
right?
can't believe you said that. I ordered it last night.
There you go. Wait till you see what you discover. But
That's so
the soul needs to know where they came from. They
yes, it does.
really do.
It
And
does.
you'll always know if somebody is lying, you'll feel it, you'll know it. Somehow
Mhm.
you'll know it. So I have two stories. One guy was a sperm donor, and that person showed up 40 years later,
Mm.
knocked on the door to the surprise of everybody, including his wife and kids.
Wow.
That was I mean, whew, that's just one of a million we're going to hear. And
Mhm.
another one that was, you know, after somebody who was, you know, this upstanding, person, um, and it turned out he had a secret family. You know,
Mm.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Well,
that's a shadow side. That's a real shadow side.
now how would you define it? And Stephanie has a question. Do you define shadow being seen when a person is triggered? Their reaction is part of the shadow side. In other words, a side that they don't want to even know about themselves, because many times our reactions are it don't put us in a positive light. So the reaction, like we were just talking about anger, or you know, turning the judgment onto, I felt, you know, if I felt judged by Sydney, then I turn it around and judge her back, you know. So isn't this being authentic to ourselves? Absolutely. Yeah, Tammy.
Yeah. Yes.
It's bringing up the unconscious into conscious awareness and being as authentic to ourselves as possible, or at least as aware of all of our sides. You know, the shadow side. What was his name? Philip Zimbardo, the famous psychologist at Stanford, said, you know, evil. The line between good and evil lies in everybody's heart. So we all have the capacity to do that. It's the same kind of instinct that if someone comes to attack us or attacks a loved one, that we can go out and we can actually have the capacity to kill someone. If someone is attacking our child, we would,
Right.
if we had to, right? So, yeah. So when you talk about that being part of someone's shadow, like what the affairs, is that sexual kind of?
It's the secretiveness of it. You know, they act as if they are this leader in the community, and in actuality, they're just as human as anybody else, and they just act it out.
Sometimes people will tell you what their shadow side is. I've had cases where they go on a first date and out of the blue, whether it's the female or the male, out of the blue says, well, you know, I'm not an alcoholic. Are you? You know, they're telling you. If it comes out of the blue, then they're telling you. It's you know, not to bring politics into this at all, but when a politician is, that's professed too much, you know, that kind of term, where about so many that we've seen about against gay marriage or gay relationships, and they turn out to get caught in a gay affair.
Exactly.
You know, people who talk about, maybe a lot of religious people who talk about extramarital affairs and really are judgmental about it and put them down and stuff when it's too much, and then you find out they're having an affair. So it's that. Sometimes people will actually tell you what their shadow is without realizing it.
That's right.
Celeste is asking, is there ever an expectation to the shadow? I'm not sure what you mean by that, Celeste. Can you say a little bit more?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Kelly, where does the shadow side hide? Which chakra do you think? Oh,
that's a good question.
Second. First, second, and third. I would say mostly second and then third. If I'll tell you where I think it's the third. It's the second because that's where deep emotions are second chakra, but the third chakra, the power chakra, the center chakra, if this is, so there are people that, you know, that are spiritualists. They'll call themselves spiritualists. And like, let's say we're talking about a teacher or a priest or a rabbi or a guru or anything like that. That's a whole somebody seeking for a spiritual connection. And when you have that, and they misuse it, they're using that in their third chakra, the power chakra. So it's always the lower chakras, you know, because once you get to the heart center chakra and forward and up, the shadow side, you'll always listen. We're human. We have 7 chakras. We're human. We're going to have. I don't care. So let me just say this. You know, people have this want to find often, you know, spirituality, and especially the time that we're in right now. We are really in a time of going inward. That's what all these planets are retrograde. It's and this COVID. It's about going inward.
Yeah.
And so, you know, there was a great comment that, or saying that Rumi had said. He said, "Whoever travels without a guide needs 200 years for a 2-day journey."
Wow.
I love that. Whoever travels without a guide needs 200 years for a 2-day journey. So I'll just say my story quickly. I was in search of, when I had this spiritual awakening, and nobody is fully awake. It's not possible, I don't think. But anyway, I was.
Well, there's always room to evolve. I think.
Please,
Always
they're constantly
opportunity.
evolving. You know, constantly. So I had this really big awakening, and then I had to get grounded from it. and I was in search of somebody to help me with it. So somewhere along the line, somebody introduced me to a guru. I didn't know
Oh,
what a guru is, and I had such a strong mother that I didn't need another mother.
yeah. I
And
don't like that word.
which one, guru?
Guru. Yeah.
That you can use teacher, whatever. She happened to use guru.
Wow.
And at the time, I think Don would say different. I did not fall totally into it. I wasn't into, was it a cult? Probably. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Now, I was with my girlfriend Charlene, and I love Charlene, and she would be the first one to say we had the greatest meditations. This woman could bring up her energy, and these meditations were phenomenal. So they helped me to learn how to meditate, to get into that, and they helped give me this experience of a real spiritual experience. So for that reason, I enjoyed it. I didn't stay that long. And of course, she was a sociopath and a borderline, and you name it, down the road, a narcissist. I mean,
You mean the guru, the gal that called
yes.
herself the guru?
Oh, yes,
Would you like
yes.
to say her name or no?
No, no, I do not
Okay.
want to say her name, not at
Okay.
all. But she had really abused the power, and that going to that, Rebecca's question about it was the third chakra. She really, because what happens is there's inherent dangers for somebody, a believer who is really looking for something. So this is why you have
Oh
to have
yeah.
the psychological grounding. You have to know
Hmm.
thyself before
Yeah.
you just go, ooh, and you just give to this person. And I'll tell you, so fortunately that, I just saw her, followed her for a couple of years, and that was what I learned was enough to go, okay, I'm done. I don't need to do this anymore.
Hmm.
But it also gave me the very valuable experience is if I'm working with a client and I know that they are about to see a certain guru or they're going to do any of that, I've already been there. I already know it. I
Hmm.
have it gave me the experience that I needed, actually. So I've
Right.
helped people get
Right.
them
To
out of
help
cults.
others. Yeah.
I have.
Yeah.
And it was bizarre because I had this businessman he came in for readings, oh, I don't know, several years ago. And he said, I'm going to go meet this guru. And he told me the guru. And I said, oh, I know her. And I thought, oh, and I said, I don't think you can do what you want. But I just want to tell you my experience with her. And I had known this man for a long time. So I felt like I could say this.
Hmm.
I said, she's a sociopath and you're a wealthy man and she'll take you for your money. And anyway, he didn't listen to me. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well,
they're odd.
it's when they call themselves a guru, and that alone, I think, because to call yourself a teacher or to say, I've been given this gift and I'm a conduit, is different. To call yourself a guru, that
Yeah.
just rubs me the wrong
It's
way from the beginning.
Well, because
Susie,
you're individual, you're a strong individually, Cheryl, and but a lot of people are not, and so you have to,
mm,
you know what I mean by that? And a lot of people aren't. You actually are, because you risk if you're doing that, you risk, attributing your own God light to somebody else.
right, exactly. There's no agency. Well,
Right.
that's what they prey on is the dependency of others. So Susie
Exactly.
is saying, I think I've been aware of my shadow side since I was a child. Is that possible? That could be. I'm curious
Yes.
what
Yeah.
experiences you had or what leads you to believe that.
Oh, I
So
believe it. I believe that's absolutely possible.
yeah, yeah. The
Great question.
some
Wait, look what
some
Charlene says. Gurus, just like any spiritual teacher, one must know thyself. Very true, Charlene, and therefore
Mhm,
intention as to what you want to learn. That
mhm.
is exactly why you would see a guru.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I agree with that.
Well,
But you don't want to give away your power. So if you're
no,
weak in
there's
the mind and a guru comes along and you think, oh, they know better,
there's
never give up
things.
your intuition.
Yeah, there's things that you can learn from them, like
Mhm.
not from them. I'm saying from teachers, from people who know, you know, areas that we want to learn more about. But my cousin in Argentina followed a guru, and I read the pamphlet once. I remember as a kid, and it said, "You are my mother. I am your mother, and I am your father to you." And I'm like, "What the?" I mean,
Right.
she was literally brainwashed, and I don't know, I don't remember how she got out of it, but she did eventually. But some common shadow behaviors for those of you who this may not be completely clear is a tendency to harshly judge others, especially if the judgment is coming on an impulse. So to take a look at that, pointing out one's own insecurities as flaws in another. This is a big one because the internet is notorious for this. You know, if you look at people who make comments and then underneath you find the trolls that are calling the author of the comment stupid, moron, idiot. It's very different than giving your opinion on a comment, but someone who is displaying their shadow will be mean about it, you know. And you know, as we all know, internet trolls are some of the most insecure people of all, which are hiding behind the anonymity. A quick temper with people, that is what we talked about. Frequently playing the victim in every situation, that could be part of your shadow side.
Oh, victim is a big one, can be. And the other one is passive aggressive.
It's a big shadow. Part
It's
of the
a
shadow
big
is
shout.
not being comfortable with anger. Unacknowledged biases and prejudices, a messiah complex, which is what you just talked about. Yeah.
Yes.
There's a wonderful quote from, let me see if I can bring it up because I want to say it exactly. Hold on. Herman Hesse. If you hate a person, you hate something in him that is a part of yourself. What isn't part of ourselves doesn't disturb us.
Yeah.
And that is so true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. My mom used to say in therapy, if you're working with somebody and you don't like them, what is it you don't like about yourself?
Yeah. Yeah. There's always that, because otherwise it wouldn't bother you. I want to, Wendy says, it seems like most religious leaders, priests, rabbis are acting out of ego. Am I wrong?
Wendy, hello. That's so correct. And let me
Wow.
just tell you, I had a situation. It was last year. Was it 2 years ago? It was when we were in our old office, Shirley. Our old office in Beverly Hills.
Yeah, 2 years ago.
So somebody came to see me. It was of the, rabbi, priest, minister, one of those. I won't say which, but it was one of those. And all I knew was the first and last name. I didn't know that the person was this or this or that. I had no idea, actually. And it was a very common name, so I would never have thought. And it was a referral by somebody that I had seen a couple of times. And it was for a reading. So it wasn't for therapy, it was for a reading. Okay, so the man comes in, and I felt this horrible energy around him. I felt this god awful energy. And I'm trying to do the reading, and then he starts to tell me, for whatever reason, he's telling me his story. And I'm not the therapist at this point, although I'm listening with therapeutic ears. I'm supposed to be doing a reading. And his shadow side was so horrific that I thought it was all this. He had been abused from the time he was a child, and he then was perpetuating it. And then it dawned on me, oh my God, I know who this person is, because I've had clients that had been abused by him. And it was really upsetting to me because he was all shadow, this guy, and pretending to be this, whatever.
Yeah.
And I was so sick that when he left, you and I, we didn't share an office. Our offices were next door to each other. And I said, we need to have a consultation, which is what therapists
I remember
often will
that.
do, because I'm going to throw up right now.
Yeah.
And
I remember that.
and I was so stunned by this person who was acting as a holy person. Oh, I mean, it was shocking.
I have to caution everyone, please, because I just had a situation like that. And Kelly,
Yeah.
you were my gal that I talked to. I was so dysregulating, the story that I heard about someone in clergy, that I had to regulate myself. Please don't trust them implicitly with your kids.
Right.
There's some people out there who truly have a calling in our wonderful, wonderful people, and some who are not. And that includes scout leaders, that includes the explorer in the police force. Don't completely let your kids go and trust just because they're
Right.
either religious people, religious leaders, or even scout leaders or anything like that, because unfortunately there's a lot of shadow people in those areas, because those are the areas where they can get close to kids if they're pedophiles. Oy, so
you're right, Shirley, that you're absolutely right. And this all goes to know thyself, know your child, know yourself. You trust your intuition. Like,
yes,
you must start doing the work so you can start trusting yourself.
Absolutely, because everybody has the capacity for intuition.
Yeah.
This is the left brain talking, raised by an engineer father. Okay, everybody has intuition. You know, it's something I feel it in my solar plex, and all of a sudden just it pop into it. It translates almost as it goes up into words in my mind.
Right.
You know,
Well, yeah.
Karen, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was just going to mention, Karen says, past life regressions may help identify and understand your shadows. My shadows show up like a blooming onion at Texas Roadhouse. Layers. Oh,
I love those
yes.
blooming onions.
I know, they're so good.
Yes.
That's exactly
yes.
it.
Past life
Yeah.
regressions can help identify. And you can carry in that second chakra your past life stories, past life things that have happened that would include often if its shadow wasn't healed or you hadn't looked at it. And the thing about the reason it's important to look at who you are, start to make your unconscious conscious is because it's part of you. Make friends with it. Like
Yes.
here's one of my shadows. It's Friday. I'm gonna go have a martini. That's my, like woo, and I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
You know, everybody's got a shadow. Everybody's got some
Right.
shadow
And
side.
it's not that drinking is a shadow. It becomes, shadow piece. It becomes a shadow piece if you feel bad about it because you're
Right.
judging yourself and you start
Right.
to hide it. That's when it becomes part of your shadow. It doesn't have to be. It's not that drinking or sex or anything is part of our shadow side. It's when we judge ourselves about it, and then it can become because we hide it. And it's also important to explore why we're judging ourselves. Are we truly doing something wrong, or is this the way we've been conditioned to believe and it's really not wrong? Like sex is a big issue that it's almost like a 4-letter word. Nobody wants to talk about it. And it is a mammalian urge. It's a natural urge that all mammals have. And so if you're not hurting yourself or anyone else, it should be okay, unless you have your own ideas about it and your own morals and values and things that you want to follow. But religion is a huge part of turning sex into a shadow side for everybody, because the Catholics, the Christians, I mean, everybody makes sex bad, even the Jewish people too. And it shouldn't be bad. It should be something that is natural, and it shouldn't turn into a shadow side, but it almost always does.
And then when it turns into a shadow side, then you've got a problem.
That's when
there's
that's
an
when it
issue
can
there.
get, yeah.
And having said that, in the spiritual world, so many of these gurus, and I know Tammy, if you're going to call in, she had a great story for one. So many of these gurus that I've had to deal with, actually, their shadow sides come out in sex. And so you have that, you have these young women or these women, and they are so attracted to the guru because they've projected their imago on them that they're going to be my teacher. And of course, their teacher would never do harm to them. And because they're coming from love, and then kaboom. And guess what? When that happens, then you might lose your faith forever. Or you might say, I'll never be faith-based. I mean, it really does so much damage. I
On
can't
so
tell
many
you.
different
So
levels,
many
or you
trusts.
question your own reality.
Oh, yeah.
This
Yes.
person is trying to do the best for me, particularly when it's molest from a religious person. Let's see what Stacy is saying. Just had this exact thing happen. Guy came to my new place claiming to be a priest, and he was, child abuser. I felt it, and then it was confirmed. It's so important to follow your instincts. Oh, Stacy, thank you for that.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. And it's very important to follow your instincts.
It is, and because it affects, it's so traumatic on so many different levels, because it's someone, I mean, I was brought up Catholic, so nuns and priests they teach you they're the representation of God on earth. So, if a priest, if I had encountered that, which I didn't, thankfully, but if I had, I know my mother would have said, go, they want to be with you. And because she would have thought that I was going to be with, and I would have gone. And I mean, I would, no, I probably wouldn't, because a priest did something that I didn't like, and I told him, and I never went back.
Stacy on the line, ladies, if you want to take her call.
But,
yes,
please. Yeah, let's do that. But yes, please follow your intuition with that.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
I just was wanting to share a couple stories, if that's okay.
Yes.
Okay, so the first one is, and when Kelly was just talking about her experience with this guru, it really reminded me of an experience I had a couple years ago. I had just moved to, I lived in Wyoming for years, and I just moved to this new city, and I was looking to get into martial arts again. But I wanted one that was more spiritual. So I found this group that the first person I talked to, I really liked his energy, and he was a really good guy. And we got in there, and this guy that ran it knew exactly what he was doing. He paired me with this person who had this beautiful energy, and he kind of sucked you in. You know what I'm saying with that? And it was really weird how it happened. I was only there for about a year, thank God. But after I got sucked in, then it was all like slowly they start saying that the group was your first priority and your kids were your second priority and stuff like that. And I should have thrown flags, but it didn't.
Wow.
So, I mean, this was the experience I had. And then my friend came in because she saw how my energy was changing. It was getting better because some of the techniques we used, I still use them because some of those were very valuable. But it was so creepy how it happened. And when my friend came in, she looked at me and she said, "Dude, this is a cult." So she helped get me out. But
Stacy, I have to tell you, I may know who you're talking
Wow.
about, actually,
Wow.
sadly. And whoa, I'm very familiar with that. If it's not that one, with a group very similar that you just described,
I
Shirley,
would,
and you know who that is.
unless it's going to hurt people, I would encourage us to say who it is so others don't get bamboozled by them, if it's safe to do that.
Well, he's no longer in business. He actually
Okay, good.
did some pretty shady things and ran himself out of business. So he was in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and if anybody's from Cheyenne, they'll know exactly who I'm talking about. But he also had a place in Colorado, and he closed the one in Cheyenne really shortly after I left. But what really triggered me out of it is my friend, because I trusted her so much. We're still great friends, you know, and I trust her with everything. And then I actually watched him almost kill somebody with energy work. Like, he was draining, I don't know if this makes sense, but he was draining energy out of these people. And I kind of caught on to it there towards the end. I was like, wait, this isn't good. And that's what really kind of snapped me out of it, besides my friend, you know?
Wow. Wow. Well, I'm glad. But, you know, sociopaths do have a way of getting in. There's that charismatic side that they can almost read people,
Right.
you know, like an open book many times.
It's sociopathic. And here's another thing. Often these people learn to manipulate energy. And they've learned, you know, there are secrets to the universe, if you will, of energy and how to use it, how to use it incorrectly, how to use it. And some of them really misuse it. And I have a feeling I may know who that one is. But I'm sorry. I really appreciate you sharing that.
It was pretty bad.
Yeah, I understand very well. Thank you for sharing
for
that.
sharing that. Yeah, I think that's a wonderful caution for anybody. If they say something that kind of rubs you the wrong way, but you're not sure, maybe invite a friend who would be, you know, to have a different perspective into whatever it is, whether it's a support group or a gathering or anything, you know, to have them check it out for you.
And have it be a left brain person.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yeah.
If you don't trust your energy.
She was very intuitive too, so, but yeah.
Or somebody who's really intuitive, and she got it. That's good. Thank goodness, you know.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
And then the other story I had just actually happened recently, like this last week.
What happened?
Moved, me and my daughter, and this guy came to our house, and we didn't know who he was, and he claimed to be the priest of the town, and he just gave me a weird vibe. So I wasn't mean to him or anything, but I wasn't very warm. And then I found out later through some other people that live in the town, they didn't say his name, but they said, you need to look at the Megan's Law website. So I said, okay. And then I said, I think I already have an idea of what you're talking about. And they said, well, just look at it. And he's on there. So
wow.
He's a real priest. He just was using that.
Was he wearing the habit? Or I don't know if it's called a habit with priests, but
no.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm in the middle of the desert, so there's like nobody. I wouldn't expect him to be wearing it anyway. Wow. But it was just one of those things where I kind of felt it, and then I kind of discounted it, and then it came back up, and I'm like, no, I don't like this. There's something wrong.
Everybody needs to go with their first their first thought, their first feeling, their first, intuitiveness, and don't second guess it. Just know you're going to be right. And it's okay to err on the side of, I don't care.
Conservative. Yeah.
Just do it.
Yeah. Because if it's actually a lesson that I call it the universe is presenting for you, the universe will send you another opportunity.
Oh, you betcha.
So don't worry about missing an opportunity. But if it's a gut feeling, don't do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Oof.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for sharing those stories.
No problem. You guys have a great day.
Thank you. You too. Bye. Yeah. It's I guess, my constitution, when something doesn't make sense. I remember I was in confession. This is when I started to kind of separate from the religion, because I used to pray the rosary every night, and I used to read a passage of the Bible every night, and I used to go into church and say, "Hi, God," when I would be dropped off to school because it was a Catholic school, and then I would leave and say, "Bye, God." And I didn't know that all my friends would sit in the line and go, "Okay, wait for it. There she goes." They started to notice that. And then when confession started, where you could do face-to-face if you wanted to. So they closed the little, you didn't have that little box anymore with the sliding thing. You've seen it, I'm sure, in movies. They had a curtain. And he said, "Do you want to do face-to-face?" And I was a kid in elementary school. And I said, "No." And so then I noticed that he dropped something, and he looked behind the curtain straight at me to see who I was. And I went, well, a benevolent God representation wouldn't do that, because who gives a fuck? I mean, I'm a kid. What am I confessing? Oh, I sneaked a chocolate bar when my mom said no. I mean, I was a very naive little kid. So that just really, and I never went back. I never went to confession again.
But I hope you wouldn't. I hope at this stage in your life that you have faith and you understand to have a spiritual side.
Oh, absolutely.
That wouldn't have ruined it. I mean, it may have at the time.
It ruined it, that and other things that I wrote ruined organized religion, because I do
understand it totally.
But there's some people who really love that connection, like my sister still goes, and that's great for them. I more now call it the universe and the connection with the other side, and that I have a huge spiritual belief. It's just not tied in any kind of organized religion.
Perfect.
Yeah,
that's great. So wait, we have call. John, you want to we'll do calls? Are we there, John? That seems odd. Hello?
Oh no. Did we lose John? Oh my God.
How are you?
Lost our grounding. Oh, hi.
I was calling, but on a little bit different kind of change in the subject, because I understand about the intuition, but also I'm finding while I'm learning things and the way it's working, it's pretty much, it feels like it's alone, but it's not. But people are brought into your lives that they're just the player that I think that are guided to us so we can learn,
I love that.
They have their own business they're learning, but in that process they're teaching us something. When do you understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely. They're the teacher at that point. Yep.
Yes, we call them the dark teachers.
Yes.
They've all signed up for that role to play, but it's sort of like in the game of life, it's hard for us to sort of get that sometimes, because it's the whole spiritual side of what's playing, and then also
well, it always will give you an opportunity.
I'm finding, like, for me, I'm not having that come to me, because it's actually something apparently I don't need in the moment. I've got other things I'm learning, and it's been such a long process on it. But on the shadow and the judgments and all that, I can't even explain myself. I came on a little quicker than I thought, but I think I find it very interesting talking about the shadow side, coming up and just letting go. I'm working on letting go of shame, guilt. All these things, bring in love and be authentic of who I am, which would include that paying attention to your intuition and all that within your truth, and becoming authentic and allowing yourself to honestly be. And that's work. That doesn't come very easily all the time.
Thank you for saying that. It does not come easy. Being a human is not easy. There's a lot to do. There you have to deal with very complex. You have to deal with your psychological growth, your spiritual growth, then the mundane, and then you throw COVID into it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
this is,
And
as I
then,
said,
yeah, for me, it's like, well, it's continuing on, but and when I finally get it, then I'm allowed to go up that spiral again to where I'm going to get it even more. That's how I
Yes.
feel I'm being taught and guided and loved at the same time, you know, but learning to love myself. And again, it's been years that I'm working on it where I'm feeling I'm starting to really get it now on a different level. I've
how
gotten it on other levels,
fabulous.
but,
How
you know,
great
it's
for you,
a
the growth of
long
your
time.
soul. That's so great. Good for you. What is
Yeah,
your
I'm
name?
happy about it. But and thank you for talking to me. I really didn't expect to get on so quickly, so I'm going like I'm stuttering over here.
Well,
Going,
thanks for
okay, I knew
calling.
what I wanted to say, but I don't always articulate.
You did great.
No, you did wonderfully. Thank you so much. It's so important to see the
Thank
lesson
you.
also.
All right,
Yeah.
thanks for calling in,
Thank you very much.
Celeste.
for your time.
Okay, take care.
Yeah.
All right, we've got several calls holding. We're going to go to
Yeah, do
Tammy
it.
in High Point, North Carolina. Hi, Tammy.
Hi, all.
Hi,
Tammy.
Tammy. I'm so glad you called. Tammy's got a great story to share.
You know, I was listening, and I've been also, Kelly, I mentioned this book to you, Untamed by Glennon Doyle, and I've been listening to that book on Audible, and she uses a great term called the Jagged Gift. And I think this is what we're all experiencing, like a jagged gift. So I have a friend who's in the public forum, and she has used a guru, kind of a healer, for years and years, like 5 or 6 years. And she mentioned to me, this person is wonderful, has helped me, has helped my mom so many times. I really think you would really enjoy this person. And so I looked the person up, and because of her recommendation, I thought, well, you know, I'll give it a shot, and made the appointment. But before I could have that appointment, she texted and she said, I need to really talk to you. Can I talk to you a minute? And so she said to me that she had a session with this person and had this profoundly disturbing experience with this healer. And the healer is not in the States. He's in another country. And again, has used him for years. And during that session, she was very vulnerable, and he introduced some extremely sexual information and put her at a very great disadvantage. And so she said to me, when she called later, she said, I'm so concerned because I do not want you to have this experience with this person. But I think for herself, she also felt shame in that she kind of laughed it off, even though it was very disturbing and it was very dark, the information that he shared. And she had to work through that part, but she was concerned about all the people that she had recommended for this person to talk to. Yeah. And I think, sometimes these healers get in these positions of, I don't know, it's almost like the shadow part comes out in like the slightest of ways. She said she was shocked because she had never seen it coming. And she was horrified over all the people she had recommended.
Yeah.
It's awful
and
feeling.
So, it can come when we're least suspecting it. And I think it can come when we're the most vulnerable.
And absolutely. And that's why it's really important to remember that
you're
these
totally open.
Yep.
And then this other hits and it doesn't fit. It's like gaslighting.
Right. Totally.
And that's why it's really important to remember they're humans. They're they're working in a lower chakra clearly, but they're humans. He took huge advantage of the situation.
Yes.
Huge advantage.
Yeah. And of the public persona that he had hooked on to.
Well, and that's why it's so important, regardless of who you are, is to do your work, because on Earth you're still human, and many times when you get so much adulation from people and you haven't done your trauma work, the ego can take over and really, cause you to do things that may that maybe, you know, unrecognizable, like this woman had so many years with this person, and then all of a sudden it showed up. So that's why even
And this is a
gurus
public personality.
do their own work.
She was horrified. You know, she was horrified that she was just like you or me or anybody were taught to kind of laugh it off.
Yeah.
And she said, I didn't stand up for myself. And she thought, you know, I'm gonna have to work with that on myself. And then I think she ended up sending that person an email, said, you know, I want nothing to do with you.
How great that she was able to do that. That's amazing.
It's important to know that when we're shocked, many times we freeze, and that's why we don't say anything. And so it's really important to have self-compassion, that afterwards, or when you tell the story, it's so easy to go, oh, I should have said this, or why didn't you say that? And we freeze, especially when it doesn't match, you know. And so good for her that she did it after the fact. Yeah.
Right. And then she called everybody she knew that she had recommended. She's like, look, this is, and this particular person was getting ready to come into the States and be introduced into, you know, various parts of the states as this guru and this healer and this wonderful person. But, you know, I have to look at what's going on in the world. And right now, no wonder it came up now.
No, that's exactly why it would come up now, because, well, it's so funny, Tammy, that you're saying that, because right now, the universe is on like such high alert to rip into to people that would take advantage of. I don't think, I mean, the universe, you know, gave him an opportunity and he blew it, and she became empowered by it. God bless her.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that story.
Thanks,
Absolutely.
Tammy.
We're all human. We're all together, and we're all, you know, going through this at the same time. So it's wonderful to be able to share everything that everybody's sharing, because they're like, yes, me too.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. We're all in this together. Yeah. Thank you for calling.
Thanks, Tammy.
Oh, I love you.
Love you too.
All right,
we're moving to area code 403, which I think is in Canada. Let's get our name. Area code 403, are you there? Can we have your name, please, and where you're calling from?
Yeah, it's Mike, and I'm calling from Wainwright, Alberta, Canada.
Hi, Mike.
Nice. Hi, Mike.
It's rare that we get a man calling in, so how are you? How can we help you?
Good. Well, I just kind of listened to your conversation there, and you know, I really you know, agree with a lot of it, like about the dark side in yourself. And I also think that, you know, people should you know, recognize that dark side and use it to their advantage at times with dealing with people that are also repelling such a negative energy. I think that if you are able to hone this kind of energy in a positive way, not so much, you know, it's not necessarily a negative energy. It's the way you hone it and the way you use it to, you know, identify yourself and you know, put it out to other people and to deal with other people, you know, not to suppress it so much, but to acknowledge it as an inner power. And, you know, there's positive levels on every way of energy that's coming out of your mind and your body. And if you can attain even, you know, that much more positiveness out of something that seems like it's negative, then it's even that much more powerful to be able to absolve and use.
So you're saying send your shadow love?
Yes. Basically, what I'm saying is embrace both sides, not just the positive, but the negative, and change that negative into a positive. Envelop.
What are you referring to as the negative?
That's correct.
What are you referring to?
You could. I'm saying that you could take that negative that and turn it to a positive, rather than being so much of a violent thing, but a more positive thing. But but in more of like a positive output.
So I always
You
look
know
at
what
the
I'm saying?
shadow
Like
as being parts of yourself that don't receive love, that need to be healed, that are you know, parts of yourself that need healing. And that's that. And so it comes out, maybe, like, for instance, anger might come up when you're really hurt. Does that make sense?
Right.
no,
Yeah,
I
and I'm
understand. Yeah, but what I'm saying is that anger that comes out of you necessarily isn't a bad thing, because it's repelling
Mm-hmm.
all that negative energy out of you.
Okay.
So if you can change that anger into a positive physical,
Mm-hmm.
you know, equation, you know, as going from your mind to the physical body,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
change that into something that's going to regress into something positive.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like a lot of cancers and all the poisons that are in our bodies, they stem from not keeping all this negativity
Yeah.
and not
Yeah.
letting it out.
Right.
Anger and the
Absolutely.
poisoning.
Absolutely. Anger
Mhm.
is only part of our shadow
And
side.
what I'm saying is, and so what I'm saying is, if you embrace this shadow figure,
Mhm.
to take it up into the positive, like when you're doing your self healing,
Mhm.
dive deep to get this stuff out.
Yeah.
Breathe
Yeah.
and meditate.
I think what you're saying is to bring it into consciousness. And we're not saying that anger is part of the shadow side. It's how it comes out. Anger is a very healthy emotion to have. It's what allows us to go into fight or flight and protect. So it's certainly not in and of itself part of the shadow side. It's how it shows up. Like if it shows up in judgment, or it shows up in what we were talking about before, getting angry at a salesperson. It's finding what that part is about, because that part will have a deeper, just like you're saying, you go in deeper, and that'll have a deeper reason for it. For me, it was not being heard, and it was coming out as anger. So I'm glad that you're bringing that up. Yeah, absolutely. All emotions, there's an important reason for all of them to be there. So it's important to go deeper and bring what's in the unconscious into conscious awareness.
Yes. Thanks for calling in, Mike. We appreciate
Yeah,
that
thank
perspective.
you.
So much, Mike.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
You got it.
Take care.
Bye.
You too. Yeah, I know he's bringing up points to me that when I read in Debbie Ford's books, right, all about reclaiming the shadow and finding those parts of yourself that need attention, instead of burying them, trying to find a therapeutic way, right, of changing that negative to a positive, as he's saying. So that
Right.
makes a lot of sense.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and having an awareness, becoming aware of how you're acting, aware of how your people are responding to you. Start having an awareness, as Shirley would say, a curiosity, and really start asking your questions, and then have some honest questions with yourself, and honest dialogue with yourself, and then maybe ask somebody, "Am I this way? What is your take on me?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Start diving deep. We've got months
Definitely.
probably to go deep, so
And we have
start on
Carol,
it now.
maybe our last caller for the evening. Carol, thanks for holding.
Hi.
Hi, Carol. Do
Hi,
you have
Carol.
a question, story, or comment?
Hi. I've forgotten everything now, but I do have I have touched base with so many of your callers.
Yeah.
And there go my dog. I had, and I guess I still have a problem, but when I was younger, and not to sound egotistical, but being pretty as you're younger and skinny and everything, I used to go to psychologists or what have you, but they would always hit on me.
Oh.
So that's the same thing as a priest doing it, or it's somebody
Yeah.
that you have as an authority figure that you think is going to take care of you. And
Right.
it's very
Right.
true when you're younger. That happens a lot. It happens at any time, but that does happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm older now and heavier now, but I still like for my hair to be pretty, and I think I'm pretty, but
I am sure you are.
people. I used to. I mean, I have reconnected with people on Facebook that we were friends with. When I was in school, and they were like, "Oh, I so wanted to be with you." It's like, I don't want to be that person.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I want to be taken. I want to be Carol. I want to be me.
I love that you said that well, then start really get in there, and this is who you are then. I mean, you are yourself. Be as authentic as it can be as you're growing into who you are. This is a really important time for that. And I'm actually glad you called with that. I mean, and the more centered and grounded you get with who you are, everybody else will snap to or not.
Yeah. Yeah. Setting your boundaries.
Set boundaries.
Being around, like with John, I know I've met John and a few of the other people in the chat room, and it's so fun. It's just
well, good. Be yourself,
it's
Carol.
Yeah, we've had a lot of fun in there.
But I still would like to have talk to somebody, like Dr. Shirley, but not Dr. Shirley. I'd like to go to somebody to talk to, and I want them to take me serious, not just what I look like.
Right. Well, John, can you put up the somatic experiencing website and look and see in your area and find a practitioner? And I always recommend you call them on the phone first, see how you feel, see kind of what that intuition is, and then go from there and make your decision from there. Because again, I'm glad that you brought that up. Just because someone is trained and licensed, as a therapist, even as a medical doctor, that doesn't mean that they've worked through their stuff and they don't have a shadow side that can really hurt people.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So John will send that.
Hopefully I don't have my own shadow side.
Well, we all do. So maybe that person can help you. Finding a good therapist can help you kind of bring what's in the unconscious into conscious behavior, into consciousness. Thank you so much for calling.
Thanks for your patience
Okay.
and holding, Carol. We'll see you in the chat room.
John.
All right,
Everybody.
take care. Yeah, Carol's mentioning we have our group chat room that we've been doing, our group video chat room, and we've been getting together and hanging out and just really having a great time.
Well, I actually
Pretty
jumped
deep
into
too, right?
it. I jumped into it the other day, didn't I, John?
You did, yes. And so did James. Yeah.
And I brought James in, and he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm in a chat room. Come on in." And it was so fun. It was such an unexpected treat.
Let me know when they are, and if I'm available, I'd love to jump in too.
You and
Well,
Hal.
it just launched last week, and it's Facebook Messenger video chat. So you can go into our group, and then you click on the link, and anytime anybody opens up the room, it will make an announcement to everybody who's in the
that's
group.
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So then they can jump into the group and hang out, and it's been great.
So why don't you put that the link up there if you can? That way people have access to finding a somatic experiencing practitioner in their area.
Up there on the screen. Shirley, I put that in the comments as well.
Great.
It's
Thank
on
you.
the screen there too. And then if folks want to join the Both Sides Now TV community, which is our support group, just go to our Both Sides Now TV page on Facebook and then click visit group, and then you'll get a link there where you can fill out a little application, and then we'll approve it and get you in.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for watching.
That was a great show.
Yes.
And on Thursday, John, we're doing questions, right? This Thursday?
Yes. Yeah, which is definitely why you should jump into the group and post your questions, because Cal will be answering a lot of questions on Thursday, and this is going to be at 2:00 Pacific time. We'll be going live to do our group check-in, and that's going to be live on our Facebook page and also on our YouTube channel.
Yeah, and questions that, you just have questions about spirituality, different things that you've always wanted to know, or anything it's kind of broad questions if you can, and then I'll do readings too.
Yeah, it's sort of an AMA, ask me anything on spirituality.
I like that.
That's great. Well, thank you. We will see everybody next week.
Oh, and we've got Prajna next week, and we're going to do a meditation for everybody, a healing meditation.
Lovely, lovely Prajna.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. All right, everybody, take care. Be kind. We'll see you next week. Actually, we'll see you Thursday. So used to saying next week, even though
You've been listening to Both Sides Now, featuring the unconventional duo Dr. Shirley and Kelly White. Two perspectives, one world.